when you've outlived the current thing that you're doing, and to get an inquiry as to what's next, and then privileged to be in a firm that allows you to be curious, to say, can I leave this now and explore something else? I think, as you would have heard in my bio, I mean, by training, I'm an accountant. And really, after 12 years, I said, I want to go into consulting. I didn't know what I wanted to do in consulting, but I had a deep curiosity. I wanted to go to the forefront of the transaction, actually. That's all I knew, instead of looking at historical data. And so there was probably an 18-month period in my journey where I was in between. I was still consulting on technical accounting terms, but I knew it's not actually the thing that I wanted to do until I stumbled on sustainability. And when I read up on it, the more I read up on it, I knew that this is the thing that I wanted to focus on. And thankfully, back then, I was given an opportunity to build a business case on sustainability. It's not an offering that we had, so I had to build a business case, and we had to see how we are going to take it off the ground. We don't have the most advanced legislation in South Africa for sustainability beyond the listed enterprises. But I saw it as a good challenge. And because it was a good challenge, and because it was an entrepreneurial product, it also meant I stood out because no one else in the practice actually specialized on the topic. So I think when I built that up, and when I was doing my business case for senior manager, I built it on the back of sustainability. And therefore it's been such it's been a good journey. It's been a challenging journey as well. But I think more than anything, the undertone is actually just to do what you do well. And when I said it was unplanned, because those doors just keep opening before you by virtue of how well you've done what you were meant to do. Yeah.
I appreciate the manner in which you have actually had to reconnect with what is it that you're passionate about in the journey. And you didn't stop the pursuit until you got to the point where you found something that really resonates well with you. And I think that's an important point for us to actually take away from what you've just responded. Thank you very much. Ashley, over to you.
Thanks, Bridgette. Thank you for the invitation. Everybody online, in person, good to see you guys. The difference, a stark one for that matter, between myself and Bongiwe is that my journey to making partner was very planned. Hers was unplanned, mine was very, very planned. And I tell you, something similar though is she found an environment, she says, an environment that allowed her to be curious. I think that's very important. Find an environment that allows you to achieve what you desire. I was also in that type of an environment. I still remain in that environment. From day one, I knew that, look, I want to get to the top. I've always been somebody that likes to do things alone. I want to run my own things. It's very hard for me to follow. I've always struggled with following. If you put someone in front of me and they need to lead me, I often struggle with that. So from day one, I knew that, look, I had a goal, and the goal was to go up the proverbial corporate ladder every year until I made partner. And that is essentially what happened with me. In a law firm, maybe it is a bit similar with the accounting firms and the auditing firms, but you've got different departments, there's different practices, and you just need to find that one place that best suits you and where you want to be and own that space. And that's what I did. And I think that from day one, I walked in there in a firm that's already been established, has been operating for years and years, and with sufficient institutional clients. But I came in as this young person that wants to run his own thing. And no matter how small that thing was, I'm the guy that would come in there and, whilst others are working on multi-million rand transactions, I'd be like, listen, I've got a client here that needs me to recover 5,000 rand for them. so I need to do a letter of demand. And you know, and the difference between myself and my peers is that when you're running the other multi-million rand transactions, you are just but a piece of the puzzle. You know, you're working in a bigger team. There's like many other attorneys, and there's the lead attorney. But on my 5,000 rand, the principle is the same. You know, the procedures are the same. The steps that you need to take are the same. But the only difference is that I'm running with it. You know, I'll draft my own stuff, then take it to the boss and say, yo, please just double check this for me, as opposed to the boss saying, hey, I've already done this work, go and print. And I started doing that from day one. And every year I'll do an analysis of where I am in my career, what is happening, where are the gaps in the practice that I am, what gap can I fill, how can I stand out from the rest. And I started behaving as though I was a boss, when I was very far away from being a boss. And that was just, you know, the beginning of this journey. Where am I now? You know, I'm sitting at a place where, as a partner, you're responsible for not only those that are below you, and I use below loosely because I don't really think that they are below you, but it's, you know, that are in other designated positions that are not at partner level. I'm responsible for those people. I'm responsible for the strategic direction of the firm. I'm responsible for, you know, outside of the strategic, but the holistic growth of the firm. Those are the type of roles that you play when you now sit at the board. And we're going to go in deeply maybe as we engage more and more, the risks that come with that, the benefits that come with that. Is it something that you want to do? Is it a place that you want to sit at? Everybody speaks about going up there. Do you really want to be aiming for that? What do you hope to achieve by sitting there? And maybe, you know, with the benefit of where we seated, we will be able to assist, you know, just to tell you what are the challenges that comes with it, what are the benefits that come with it. Do your own cost-benefit analysis, and then decide how you're going to take this going forward.
Awesome, thank you so much. You know, as you were speaking, and also just taking from the cue from Bongi, I've studied marketing. And in marketing, there is the whole concept of identifying your niche. Yeah. And both of you have actually spoken to that. And the funny thing is that I also had to identify my niche. I actually kept on putting it back and just saying, no, I don't want it, no, I don't want it. But the whole role of managing innovation is something that nobody really understands and wants to step into. But that's exactly what has led me to the point where I'm at, my role being the manager innovation and customer insights for the city of Cape Town. So the whole concept of following your niche and making sure that you grow in it, but also planning and ensuring that you monitor and evaluate your progress as you move on along. I think that's actually quite interesting to pick up from what you've said. So the next thing I want to ask you is that there's obviously certain skills that they look for when they identify somebody whom they would regard as partner. There's soft skills, but there are technical skills as well. Can you just take us through an overview of what those skills look like, especially in the differences of the firms that you actually are representing here? Bongi, let's go to you.
I think one of the prominent things that tend to happen in our professional services is that you get promoted on technical ability in your junior years. And as you go up, your professional skills become more important than your technical skills, because by the time you're a senior, you've got technical people supporting you. So you actually don't need to be in the technical detail, but you need your professional skills to build the business, to make sure that the quality assurance of the work produced, you review every report, you sign off before it goes to a client. And therefore also, I think that your emotional intelligence is really something that will take you further. And by that, because, I mean, by virtue of sitting at leadership means you sit inside a coal fire, you know. You have to navigate and manage the politics, you know, there's a formal meeting and there's a meeting behind the meeting, you know. You have to be, you have to have that heightened sense of awareness. You know that you can robustly disagree in a meeting and then go for drinks after and says, that was a good discussion. So therefore, you don't take it to heart as much. But I think that if I could pick one, I would say it is your ability to build good relationships. because off the back of the good relationships, you will get work, and you will work well with your peers, and you will be endorsed by your clients and your peers. So the ability to really have good relationships is of paramount importance, because people do business with people that they like. End of story. So therefore, I think that is really quite good. But you won't get to a leadership level without technical proficiency. So when you're still a junior, sweat the detail, and make sure that you do things by the book. Basically, that is the thing that will get you the notice that you want for the next level. Yeah.
Actually, anything to add there?
Yeah, maybe let me do this. We've got a bit of a crowd in the room. The younger crowd is this side. How many of you, just by raise of hand, how many of you one day want to sit as a partner of a great company? There's a few, and there's some that say, I'm all right, I don't need this stuff, I'm okay. The quickest way to becoming the partner at a great company is to start your own company. It's the quickest way ever. So if you want to sit as a CEO and you want to sit as a partner of a great company, go and start that great company. And then you are automatically, by the way, you just go to the CIPC, you fill in a couple of documents, they'll give you your certificate and say, from this day onwards, you are a partner, and there's a shareholders declaration, you've got your memorandum of incorporation, everything is done. You can then walk around the campus and say, hey guys, I am a partner. But let me tell you the reason why you can't do that now. It's because you lack a great deal of the skills that Bongi just took us through. You are inexperienced, you don't have the technical experience, you don't have the professional experience. You, beyond just emotional intelligence, you don't have, well, maybe even your IQ, it's not really there. It's getting there, but it's not really there. There's a book I love reading a lot. What's the name of this book? Outliers. He talks of practical intelligence. Yeah. So not just emotional intelligence or intellectual intelligence, there's also practical intelligence. That is the ability to interact with people, the ability to question, the ability to be liked. So because you can't do all of that, you go out there and you look for a company that will give you the requisite experience. Yeah. So you're going to find a company that allows you to grow, that will give you exposure, that will allow you to make mistakes, that will allow you to interact with people whom ordinarily you'd never have interacted with. For that company to then take you up this corporate ladder, they must be able to measure. So as I sit as a partner, I must be able to measure that you are indeed growing in all these respects that we've just mentioned. So when you are very junior, we expect that you must have the willingness to learn. You must have the willingness to make the mistakes. And the beautiful part is that somebody else has to pay for those mistakes because it's not your own company. And then as you grow, there are a lot of things that we look at. How are you able to work with other people? How do you interact with clients? How do you carry yourself out professionally? When I get a CV and I have to look at it, the first thing that I'll do is I type in your name on the internet. I want to see, what are you up to on Instagram? What are you up to on TikTok? What are you posting, because I'm looking at an entire image of who you are, Because tomorrow, if you're going to be promoted and you become a partner, you're an extension of the company. You carry the company's reputation. And how are people going to think of the company when they think of you? So there are a lot of these, and these are the soft stuff that we look at beyond what you are capable of doing, on the intellectual side of things. And of course, emotional intelligence, as Bongi says, plays a great deal. But let me tell you something, guys. Practical intelligence is something that you need to start working on. Networking, and networking starts here, by the way. They say that transactions are concluded in the boardroom, but they commence somewhere else. Yeah. That's very true. So those are the type of things, I think, that the soft issues that we look at, and which you need to start working on, not even when you're now sitting as a senior associate, but from a very early age, when you're still in varsity, when you're still in college, start working on those skills. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think it actually takes us to the next question that I was going to ask you around some ethical considerations, obviously, in becoming partner. I mean, what is it that I need to put forth? I mean, for instance, in my case, right now, people are probably wondering, if you work for the City of Cape Town and you're at Helderberg College today, did you submit your leave? Did you declare? So those are some of the things that we have to consider, obviously, when we're working in our context. But in the path to making partner, what are those key considerations around your ethical makeup that need to be taken to cognizance?
Yeah. I think when it comes to ethics, it will only be tested when something goes wrong, or revealed when something goes wrong, has gone wrong. But what I know for sure is that, if your moral compass is at the right place, you will come out on the other side. And that moral compass also talks to practical things. You must know not to sign up a client when you know you can't add value to them. You must be able to walk away from those fees. Or when you know that you don't have the technical ability to deliver, you must be able to not sign on that client, because your inability to practically live out your ethics will put your firm at risk. Because those are the things that will catch you out. So I think, and fast forward to 2024, this is an imperative thing, because we are in households where both parents work. That the children growing up today, very few of them will speak their mother tongue. So the transferring of basic values is a challenge, because values are primarily transferred through language. There are things that my kids can get away with in English, but never in vernacular, because of that exact transferal of values. And these are the things that will come out to play. What do people need when they are dealing with you? They need almost predictability. People want to trust people. If you keep surprising them, they don't want to work with you. They just want to know, if I do this, Bongiwe is going to react this way. And so there's an element of predictability that is built in that develops trust. Trust is important, because without trust capital, even when something goes wrong, it will be very hard to recover from there. And you need your peers, right? In partnership, it is really a partnership. You hold each other out, when things go wrong, or when, you are impacted negatively by the economy. You also benefit a lot when you've done well. So it's a give and take at all times, but the ability to know, how do I protect myself, my partners, and the firm from an ethical perspective is very important. So we have this thing that is trained on, in terms of how do you actually deal with ethical dilemmas? What do they look like? Can you even identify them, etc. in terms of professional services? So it's critical. Yeah.
I don't know, somebody's probably thinking, can a lawyer comment on ethics? We both belong to very heavily regulated professions. Yeah. But nonetheless, that being said, we also belong to professional bodies that have been found wanting on various occasions. Numerous occasions. Auditing firms we're having a discussion on my way here, these discussions on, now alternating your audit partner every 3 years, etc. Because of the type of stuff that we faced. You speak lawyers and you speak road accident fund, you hear off the West. must say that when you speak ethics, it cuts both ways, in the sense that before you identify the environment that you want to be in, can you trust that environment? Can you trust that environment to, carry itself out in the most ethical manner? Because you see, trust, the word trust can be interpreted in any way. There are some firms that will bring on a partner because they trust that you will not reveal the shenanigans that are happening behind closed doors. And then there is someone that will come, like Bongi and I, who are very ethical beings, who will think that, when you belong to a partnership, I am liable for my partner's shortcomings. I almost used the Zulu term, umjolo, like you're liable. But now I know we've got an international audience that might not understand what I'm saying. But, what my partner does, now they see that I'm here in Cape Town. There's an element of power that comes with being a partner. So when we talk about trust at a partner level, is that, can we trust you with this power to act in the most ethical fashion? And then we are running a reputable law firm. We have our ethical standards are up there. And we do not want to have a practitioner whom we're going to give this power to, and then tomorrow only find out that they've been abusing this power. Because when that happens, the nature of a partnership is such that if you abuse that power, you're not the only one that is going to be held accountable, but your entire board is going to be held accountable. So when you act in an unethical fashion, you're not just exposing yourself, and eventually the law catches up. You cannot run away from the law for too long. Eventually it catches up. So I think that what we need, and we've got a problem in corporate when it comes to ethics. And we do need ethical leadership. We need firms that are being operated with the highest of ethical standards. As a young person that is sitting in here today, or that is listening to us from wherever it is that you're listening, find that environment. Don't look for an environment. There's always the question of, when you submit your CV, this is how I can benefit the firm. This is what I can do for the firm. This is what I can do. But do you ever ask, what can the firm do for you? Is it a firm that you can trust with your future? I've had clients who were associated with certain organizations. They can no longer be trusted. They've become unemployable in other organizations because of the terrible things that happened in organizations that they were belonging in. And it may not even necessarily be clients, but even some of the people that I associate with, where they'll tell you that certain things happened on my board, and I never questioned, I never interacted. And we brought in the wrong people to come and sit in on the board. Today that company is 6 feet under, it's no longer operational. And every time that I submit my CV, my name is already associated with that company. So people think the worst of me because I was a partner as well at that company. So think of those things as well. But there is a desperate need for ethical leadership, the highest standards of integrity. We have seen what's going on, the reports that we are seeing on a day-to-day basis. Each and every one of us has a role to play in that regard. So either as you are applying and you're working your way up to the corporate ladder, you have to have those considerations in place. And as a board of ethical leaders, we will also have those questions in place when we are determining who it is that we allow onto the board or not.
Very, very interesting.
Can I just add
insight.
something,
Yes.
Bridge? I think also, the most important thing for you to continue being an ethical leader is to not be afraid to lose what you have. Because the minute that there is a price that can buy your truth, you are heavily compromised. So the most important thing is to always self-check that can I always stand my truth irrespective of myself and the CEO not seeing eye to eye, and that you must be able to take that risk and know that I can walk out of here tomorrow if I need to with my ethics intact. So I think this is not a financial seminar, but mind your personal debt so that you are not purchasable. Because if somebody can buy you out, they can buy your truth.
Wow. Very, very interesting insights. And I think the main thing I'm taking away is that ethics don't start when you walk into a firm.
No.
It actually starts way beforehand, and you need to have your backbone intact before you actually move into those spaces. And it also goes into how do I identify those organizations that I want to work for. So when I was doing some research, obviously, for this conversation, there's a lot of work that's out there in terms of how do you build blocks towards becoming partner. I mean, there's an article as well that we looked at that speaks about the Big Five and, is it the Big Four? The Big Four, my apologies for that. And their school, essentially, where they actually teach you how to make partner within those organizations. And there was also another one that spoke about 10 steps particularly. And I think I'm curious, now that you have walked the mile, if you were to identify 5 steps or 3 or whatever number of steps that you actually want to give to the audience online and in person, what would be those building blocks in terms of those steps that one needs to take to get to the point of perhaps making partner or being able to identify how to carve your niche in the market, especially with regards to some of the studies that we have here?
I will only mention 2. One I've already touched on in terms of your ability to build relationships. The other one I'll touch on is a relentless work ethic. That's it. It's the ability to do something well, as small as it is, or something big, as big as it is, and have the whole consistency thread. The only thing that leadership looks for is consistent delivery. I don't want to lie awake at night and think, "Oh, my goodness, do I need to double check the work done by X because of XYZ? No, that creates mistrust. But if I can assume the quality of work that I can get from A, X, and J, then those are the things that will, notice you for the next level. We had a thing at our firm that says that you are as good as your last job. No more than that. You are really as good as your last job. So if you mess up that job, that's where you are. And unfortunately, a partnership is also not like a saint club. People talk as, you know, that one, I gave them XYZ and they really messed it up, you know. And therefore, and these are things that you need to navigate, because if I have something on my desk that needs to be done, who am I going to give it to? I'm going to give it to the person that's going to do it. And it's very infrequent that I have something that's not urgent, that people can, you know, mess up and blah, blah, blah. But if I have something important that needs to be delivered, I will give it to the person that I know will deliver on it. So the work ethic starts from birth. It's the ability to do chores. We don't get confidence as children by being praised. Oh, you're so wonderful. No, we get confidence by doing, by washing the dishes and breaking a dish and knowing I don't handle a glass like that. Next time, I'm going to tighten my grip. That's how children get confidence. You get confidence by doing. So therefore, put yourself in a doing mode and make sure that something that comes across your desk, you check your work before you submit it.
Thanks, Bongi. I'm going to say something here. They did say when they were reading my bio that I'm a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So I'm going to say, find your Jesus.
Yeah.
Find your Jesus. What does it mean by find your Jesus? You know, when you read the Bible, there's a verse in the Bible, I think it's John 14 verse 6 in the Holy Bible. It says that no man cometh to the Father except by me.
Okay.
The Father is the company. You are the man. You need to find the Jesus that will give you access to the Father. You need to find a voice that speaks on your behalf in your absence. You must have a mentor. Have a mentor inside the company that is already seated on the board, that is already a partner. Somebody that can vouch for your hard work. Somebody that can vouch for the fact that, yes, you have made mistakes, but you have learned and grown from those mistakes. Somebody that can vouch for you and say, this person here we can trust. Somebody that can speak on your behalf when nobody else knows about you. Because we belong in big firms, and maybe not all of you are going to aim for big businesses that you one day want to become a partner in, or you might start your own business. I don't know what your future goals are, but you must think about that. If you want to join a firm that is small enough where you may not necessarily need a voice because there's only 3 people working in that firm, then you already have direct access to the to the main partner or the managing partner, then it's good for you. You can interact with them on a daily basis. But if you're going to find yourself in a firm like Mazars, where there's thousands and thousands of people, and when you are joining into that firm, you're also joining in your hundreds. And each and every one of you is having the goal that one day I'll also become a partner in this firm. But you don't know Ebongi in the firm. You don't have someone that will speak on your behalf, somebody that will vouch for you. Then you're going to run a big risk. So mentorship is very, very important. Have a voice that will speak on your behalf. Create a relationship in the firm with somebody that will be able to speak for you when you are not present. And have discussions with those people. Like I say to you that my journey upwards was very much planned. I had that person for me in the firm. And once in a while, I'll put in a diary blocker in the diary. Every year, I'll do that. And in fact, I try to do it at least twice a year, where I'd put in a diary blocker, where I would ask for a meeting to discuss career development. Career development. You've been assessing my work. Where do you think I am now? What should I do better? What are the other thoughts about me that I'm unaware of? What do other partners say? Does anyone else need me to come in and work for them, do work for them so that they can analyze me, so that tomorrow if a vote has to be done, they can say, no, I'm voting for somebody that I know. So have that inside voice. But then there's also something that I want to mention now. Or maybe not now. Maybe we might get to that discussion, because there's still a question that sits at the back of my mind, which I mentioned earlier. Do you really want to make partner? Do you really want to become a partner? But maybe we can discuss that later before we close. Do you really want to become one?
Actually, in fact, after what Bongi said earlier about being willing to step away from it all because you're not compromising on who you are, I wanted to go back to our students and ask them, who of you still want to be partner? Because I think it would be interesting when you consider the extent of responsibility that you have on your shoulders. But I'm curious about your defining moment in your journey. We spoke about steps, building blocks, some quite lean, but there was that defining moment when you then stepped into the role. I'm not even sure what kind of ceremonies they have for you when you step into it, but there must have been a defining moment personally to you that really got you saying, yes, this is mine and I'm embracing it. Can you just share with us a bit on that?
I think for me, it was when, well, maybe let me first put it this way. You enter into an environment, like I say, that already has institutional clients and you're servicing other people's clients. You're just a piece to this bigger puzzle. But, there was that willingness to learn. You kept knocking on the door. You kept on trying to get different clients, doing those 5,000 rand summonses, advising this person here and there, doing work that nobody else, really wanted to do. But there was a moment in my career where, and I think that was a defining moment in two senses. The one was that I got a client through just these interactions that Bongi was talking about, establishing relationships. I got a client that gave me an opportunity to facilitate a significant measure. And that client was very adamant that they wanted me to lead with it. And at the time, I was not at that level, but I nonetheless went ahead with it. And I stepped into the shoes of not only, the lawyer that owns the client, but the lawyer that understands what the client wants and is able to carry this out. The transaction was very successful. Of course, I did have behind closed doors. The client didn't know, and I hope client won't watch this. I went to the more senior partners and requested their guidance. But, I sat back and I thought to myself, black child, you can do this. You've actually managed to pull this through. Yes, after consultation with, behind closed doors, but client does not know that. And even the extent of your consultations, because there's a great deal of anxiety that comes with taking up and owning certain spaces, especially when you start going up the corporate ladder. The imposter syndrome also kicks in. But you get to a point where you think, I'm sure the others that are already occupying bigger spaces went through this, and I certainly will be able to go through this. And I think for me, that was the defining moment. And from that point onwards, there was no turning back. It was now one client after the other. I don't care who you are, who you report to, how big you are, how huge your revenue is. I can run this thing on my own. And then before you knew it, you are not only taking up the leadership position, but professionally, you are also now getting to a point where you've embraced that this is who I am. I can certainly do this. And you even move beyond a point of saying, I can do this, to a point where you say, I can actually train others as well to do this. Then once you occupy that space, there's no going back.
I would say for me, it's quite similar. But I remember, I think in my second year of articles, I was given this secondment opportunity to go and assist in a tax payroll division of one of the petroleum businesses here. And it was over Christmas. And they were working on SAP, the live system that I've never worked on. And sometimes when you get those assignments, the partner's gonna buff you up, like, you can do this, you can do this. And you're thinking, I'm not sure, but I knew that I had to personally invest and really learn the system outside of working hours and learn the jargon, because now I'm not in my firm, I'm in another enterprise, where they're looking to you for expertise. And the amount of personal learning experience that had to go just for me to achieve the deliverable was insane. It was excruciating, it was painful. But I remember one time running into one of the senior partners in the office after hours, like, hey, how's it going there? And I'm like, I have no idea. And it's like, oh, because I heard that it's going really well. And I'm like, yeah, oh gosh, I hope it's going really well, because I was so on my toes. But my point is, if you're gonna take on something that you haven't done before, learn it. Back then when we were studying, you can pass something by 50%, but it means that another 50% of it that you don't know. And the margin of error in practice is not allowable. So you gotta bridge your own gap. You know the topics that you're very strong on, the topics that you kind of like get by on. But if that's the main thing and you can just get by, then it means that you'll sacrifice your sleep and you are going to double up on your knowledge and your technical proficiency and deliver. And I think it's that skin in the game that really sets the tone for you, because from there, I think when I said my route to partnership was not planned, I was always given something that I would not have given myself to do. But the ability to stretch towards it and to actually deliver on it in time is the thing that really earns you your next.
Wow. I'm coming to my next question, and I'm noting that we need to give time for everybody else to ask any questions. But I'm facilitating a session tomorrow where we're speaking about leading cities and the impact of AI in the manner in which we deliver our services, whether in private sector, in public sector, or anywhere else. I was also at the CPSI conference, and this lady was just showing us how, with this AI capability, you can just draw up a contract, and there it is. We might get to a point where we feel as though we don't need lawyers, we don't need accountants, we don't need auditors, we don't need any of these professions that we start studying within this field. And I'm curious to find out what your views are on that. With the growth of innovation, obviously, is the sustainability in the professions that we are representing?
Yeah, definitely the sustainability in our profession, but it is the ability to do well what only human beings can do. And the commitment to being efficient. That is the thing that's going to make you embrace AI. Why do I want to sit through the night and do something that the machine can do for me in 10 minutes? So therefore, the interpretation of the data, the packaging the data into decision, useful information, the advisory on what the data presents is the skill that will remain relevant in time to come. Anyone can audit. You can take a matriculant and teach them auditing, they can audit. Anyone can do that. Anyone can learn double entry system and accounting and present books. It's a teachable skill. And now, because we are going for efficiency, you code a machine to do that 100% without error in terms of what the human can deliver on. And therefore, the ability to say, look, I'm going to perfect what only human beings can do in collaboration with AI is the thing that will set us apart. AI will take away jobs of the people who refuse to change. And therefore, I think that from that perspective, you can't compete with a machine. They can reconcile things for you in the speed of light without any error, etc., etc. But they can't feel, they can't touch, they can't anticipate, they can't interpret as well as you can, and they can't put many puzzles together like you can and give the best advisory to the clients. So my thing is we need to embrace it, and we need to bring it down to academia so that it is a skill that is engaged with as soon as when education starts in a child, and then the rest will be history.
Yeah, I should have looked that side when she said we should bring it down to academia. Let ChatGPT do the assignments for us. I welcome AI. I embrace AI. I'm the lawyer that does not refuse to change. I was actually sharing with the colleagues earlier on how we have, as a firm, utilized technology from way before AI, just the digital age. The bigger firms are already looking on how to integrate AI into their practice. AI increases productivity. AI increases profitability as well. So I advocate for the ethical and responsible use of AI. There is nothing that we can do to prevent AI from taking over, and whatever else is going to come after AI, but because technology is just swiftly moving, it should not be seen as an enemy. I think it's a friend. And it's unfortunately, I think that the smaller businesses only, they usually get caught by surprise with technological developments, whereas the bigger firms, they start integrating these things when they see that, they're coming to take over. So even to the young guys, I agree with Bongi. We must also integrate AI into academia, use it to learn. I don't even see anything wrong with using ChatGPT to do your assignments. The teachers must start. So and there's been some very serious discussions around it. That is the issue, the utilizing AI to do your assignments, or is the issue, the academic space utilizing AI as a teaching and assessment tool. And we've seen some, tertiary institutions that have already started utilizing AI. It's a great deal of research. You can use AI in an amazing way for research purposes, and you can actually utilize that to assist you, to put together, for us as lawyers, a final product, which requires human intelligence, by the way, because I don't think that you can ever get rid of human intelligence. You can only use AI to help out, there's some collaboration that works between the two, but I welcome it, I embrace it, and advocate for its ethical and responsible use.
Underline ethical and responsible use. I heard the A. We're shying away from plagiarism.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for those insights. I'm going to my last question, and if there's anything else that you'd like to share, please do that. But last question before we take it to the audience. And I mean, you've spoken to an extent about the whole courage, learning, and everything else that comes into making partner. Where does the balance come in? I mean, Bongi, you spoke about how you had to learn SEP to be able to deliver. At what point did you actually have time for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for church, or anything like that? Where does the balance actually come in while we are trying to build these blocks to make him partner, or when we are partner already? At what point do we actually take the time to breathe?
I think back then I only had myself to worry about, so it was easier. And there's value in building your career at a young age. You do the hard yard back then, but it just changes the complexion of volume or challenge just changes with the years. And therefore, balance for me means that my work life is a sliding scale. There are some busy periods when there is not much of a balance, and then there are some slower periods. When it's a slower period, you need to use it. You need to pick up your kids, you need to go home earlier and cook, you need to do dinner, with your family 3-5 times a week, etc., because it's not that busy. So it's a constant deposit into yourself and those that matter to you when you are not as busy. Because then, when you are busy, you're not going to begrudgingly doing the hard work. You are going to welcome it, you're going to embrace it. So as long as I see it as like peaks and troughs, it works for me. And I think also we need to understand the makeup, our own makeup, in terms of yourself. For instance, myself, the minute I go on holiday, I get ill because my body can't register just sitting and doing nothing and being on holiday. So you buff yourself up medically because you're preparing for a break, because your body does not know what that looks like. So you give yourself a boost so that you can remain healthy for your holiday time. But I think it all comes down to flexibility at the end. You have the flexibility to do A, B, C, and you take full advantage thereof. And I think that's the thing that really makes a significant difference for myself. But each person must define for themselves what balance looks like for them. so that they can be able to note whether they have it or not, or what is needed for them to be comfortable that they have it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm still I'm at a point in my career where I'm still defining balance, so I have not really found it as yet. I'm still at the stage where I'm only thinking about myself. So maybe at the next session that we have, I can better define it. But for now, there's just a lot of work and work and work and work. Thank God for being Christian and the Sabbath, because then, that's the only time really that I get to rest. Not really, because then again, you like church hopping. Yeah, but I do think that you must find a hobby. You must find a hobby and try as much as you can to stick to that hobby. I do have a hobby, but the problem again with the hobby is that it also keeps you busy. So you're not really entering into a state of rest. I have recently tried taking up soccer as well, but I really can't commit to it as well. I only find myself maybe playing once a month. But maybe, later on in my career, when I have a family, then things are going to change. But for now, I think most of my life is work, and work. And yeah, that is quite demanding. So, and I'm not in the best position. I will speak to Bongiwe afterwards and ask her to give me tips, because I think I could make do with some of those tips. Then maybe you did say that we can use this opportunity to say one last thing. Yes. The issue that I wanted to mention earlier on, do you really want to be a partner? Yeah. And I think that's something that you must think about, young person. Why do I ask this question? When and you'd recall when I started, I said you can go and start your own business and then you're going to immediately become a partner. But the reason why you can't do it is, one, you are inexperienced, and two, you don't have the capital to start your own business at this point in time. So you have to put yourself in an environment where somebody else, has to pay for this. Business, simply defined, is to sell a product at a profit. So whatever business, if you're running a business and you're not selling a product at a profit, then that's not a business. The first product that is being sold when you enter into a firm is you. You are the product that the firm is selling. That's the price that you pay for not having capital and for being inexperienced. You will do a lot of the groundwork. You're going to write a lot of fees. We come from a background where we have billable hours. Every hour, every minute, every second has an amount attached to it. The amount of time that you spend, the billable hours that you are putting in, and the salary that you are taking at month end don't match. That's the price that you pay for not having capital and for being inexperienced. You will have chats with your friends and tell them about how your hourly rate is 2,000 Rand an hour, and you are spending sleepless nights. You work 24 hours a day, and yet every month you're borrowing money from your friends. And the question is, but if your hourly rate is 2,000 and you're working 27 hours in a 24-hour day, shouldn't you be like a millionaire? No, I only get paid 10,000 Rand. The firm is selling you. You are the product, and you're bringing in money to the firm. As you go up the ladder, your remuneration is increasing. Right? But you have to work harder and bring in more money. So your remuneration is always going to be below the money that you are bringing in. When you work towards becoming partner, you must realize that even though your remuneration was little before you made partner, now it goes beyond just remuneration, because what you had was that there was still some sort of security in that little remuneration. When you become partner, that security is taken away. Because you are getting the 10,000, so you come in, I give you my client, I give you the work. You come in, you don't have the experience, so I'll tell you, this is my client, this is the work, all you have to do is to work. then I'll give you 10,000 rand, which ordinarily you would not have had. When you become partner, it's now different. I'm no longer giving you my client. You need to bring your client. Whereas ordinarily you would have had a fixed income of 10,000 rand coming in a month, we have now allowed your income to increase to 100,000 rand. But you must bring in the client that allows you to earn that 100,000 rand. And after you've earned that 100,000 rand, the firm must still remain profitable. Because now you are advertising to clients using the goodwill and name of the firm. If you went out there and you advertised yourself as Mazibuko Incorporated, you are not going to get that big client. But because you come and you use our name, you must pay for that. So you must always keep these things in mind as you go up the corporate ladder. That why do I want to become a partner? Is it because I want a bigger form of remuneration? Is it the power that I'm after, or is it both? There are some young people that have made the biggest mistakes of shooting for the hip. They do whatever they can to become partner, and then tomorrow they wake up as partner, but then they realize that they're actually earning way, way less than what they were earning when they were not yet partner, because they are not able to bring in the business. So you must ask yourself, before you become partner, you should ask yourself the question, am I at a point in time where I can run my own business independently? Where I can run my own firm and make more than what I'm currently making? And you must keep in mind that when you are working for me in my firm, the contract is going to say that whatever client that you bring in is my client. So you cannot leave with that client. So if you leave the firm, do you have a clientele base that is big enough to sustain you and probably give you more? And if the answer is no, then you probably should not be aiming to become partner. It might cost you more. There are different types of partners. There's an equity partner, there's a non-equity partner. If you're a non-equity partner, you're saying, I'm working towards a point where I'll have a clientele base that allows me to say to the equity partners, I am bringing in so much. I've got such strong ties with these clients that if I left this practice, they'll most likely live with me, or if there's a requirement that they can't live with me, they will not stay with the firm, they might go somewhere else. Then you begin negotiating. Say, because I hold this amount of power and I've built a practice that is solid enough, thank you for all the training that you've given me, thank you for all the experience that you've given me, I could simply walk away, but I think that we can enter into a partnership. That is what partnership is all about. Then you negotiate, say, give me a cut in the business. This is what I'm bringing to the table. So you don't just bring the stuff that's currently trending on TikTok to the table, you bring actual partners. I mean, you bring actual clients and you bring actual money to the table, such that when the board members look at you, they say, no, we need you. And you can play a role in growing this firm and making it much, much bigger. So think about those things. Don't just rush for the title, but think about the implications that come with holding the title. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to say something, Bongi?
No, if I were to add to that, I think the things that we don't speak about the most are these things. It's just really critically important. You know, you don't, when you're an equity partner, you contribute with a couple of millions into the business. You buy a stake in the business. And that means you raise a loan account in the enterprise as your indication of your equity. So as you do well, your profit share goes up, you earn more. As you do badly, your profit share comes down and you earn less. That's the risk that you must take. And even when you have eventualities beyond your control, such as a COVID year, you must still think, how are we going to sustain these 1,100 people in the country? Okay, let's reduce our drawings, not of everyone, of us partners. because you can foresee uncertainty and you need a buffer for it, while your people in your business are enjoying a stable income, you're not. You're taking a risk because of that. And so it gives you an appreciation of what selling time really means, as really an intrinsic commodity. And in other spheres, it will mean that you're not going to sit for 8 hours on SAF Air trying to get a ticket at 20 Rand, because your charge out rate is way beyond that. You can't actually afford to do that. So you get to understand how you allocate your time, and it informs how you live out your life. You'll almost never find me doing dishes at home, because my time is precious. If I've got time, I must spend it with my kids and my husband, not doing dishes. Because I put a premium on my time, and I allocate things to do the things that need me the most, not what a machine can do, or somebody else you can employ to do. And it doesn't really interface with the quality of your lifestyle. So it's a very important question to ask yourself whether or not you want to take a partnership. And when you go that route of partnership, don't marry in community of property. Have no assets in your name, because the risk is too high. When business goes badly, you don't want to lose everything. And therefore, it means you need to marry somebody that you trust, if you are going to ascribe your assets to that person. Yeah.
I'm handing it over to you now. I'm just going to try and see in the audience if there's anybody who wants to ask a few questions. I see there is already a hand there. I'm noting Q's hand. Is there anyone else who's got a question to ask the panelists? Q, over to you. I hope you'll be audible enough, unless if you want to come to the front.
Thank you. Good afternoon to our panelists, Ashley, Bongiwe, Bridge. Thank you for such an insightful conversation, a well-rounded conversation, I must say. And I have two questions I was writing down the whole time, because I'm always fascinated and interested to hear how young Black professionals make it, especially considering South Africa's historical context. But my first question is, I think when you shared your journeys, we saw, for instance, I saw a distinction. Ashley spoke about how his journey was like so planned, towards partner, and Bongiwe was saying she was still not sure about her niche. It took about 18 months, she said, to really settle into what she exactly wants to do. So I wanted to find out from both of you, has there been, especially from a gender lens, I cannot unsee that. I think it's because of my professional training as a gender scholar. Has there been distinct challenges that you would like to acknowledge in your journeys? If, for instance, it can be, even if you don't want to speak broadly, maybe you can just highlight one. And then my second question is, now you are leading like huge teams, right? And was there a certain moment in where you had to sit down and define for yourself what kind of a leader do you want to be? Because there are many different types of leaders out there. So did you have to sit down and think, okay, what kind of leader am I coming into the space as? Did you have to define that or for yourself? you know, from already the boxed types of leaders that you can find on the internet, transformational leader, da-da-da leader, or you had to sit down and think, okay, I'm taking from there, and this is what leadership means for me. Thank you.
Okay. I think in terms of challenges, the only one I can think of is taking something unknown, making it viable and growing it in terms of a service line. That for me was an enormous challenge. I also, I think, had a personal goal to actually just show everybody else that it can be done. And it's not without its stress, because there's a high degree of uncertainty that hangs in the balance. And I think, you know, you touched on it just a little bit, Ashley, in terms of we need to find a way of de-stressing. Cut some and ignore some and manage some. Because if you take it all in, I honestly think it will kill you. So that finding that hobby thing is really, is a lifesaver. Because professional service, or let me say knowledge workers, have a demon of can't switching off. So what is the hardest thing for a knowledge worker to do? Is to relax. You can't not think. You can't not, you're so used to it that you're not resting. So finding something to do with your hands or practically takes your mind off, switches your minds off. And that's something that we need to really instill in ourselves to be able to make it on the other side. And then I think when you touched on gender, I have not noticed gender upheavals because I'm very assertive. I'm not saying they're not there. I've seen sometimes with some people how some other people will speak over them, and you just highlight it. You just say, oh, actually, are you aware that Bridgette was still making her point? You know, you just put it like that. Because people are wired differently, and it's my wish that when we raise up girls, we'll raise them up to understand their intrinsic value and their assertion, so that they can be able to withstand the boardroom heat. So those are things that you need to develop. And also, by knowing your power, you also must know when to just neutralize it. You know, you don't need your strength all the time. You just need your strength when you need to draw a line and say, you're out of line, you know, and then you pull back to your norm. And so in that, I think we need to be able to hold ourselves to honesty, and also know that this I can do, but not right now. This I need to put for another time and date. And then when it comes to leadership, I think personally my leadership has evolved. Where I am now, my leadership is very dynamic. It depends who I'm leading at that time. I love people who can work independently. I love people who can take instruction and just get on with it. And I don't need to see them in front of me. I also know that not everyone is there. Some people need supervision because they don't have the discipline. And therefore, you have to augment. And by the way, I've got my team members here. I've got Oriane and Patty, so you can ask them some questions later. So I lead people differently because I lead to their strengths, right? But then it means you need to be honest. I need to be honest with the mediocre to say that you need discipline and you need to be here in front of me because I think you can't focus. You know, if you don't tell that truth, then your team will blame you for favoritism and, you know, all sorts of things. But if you can be honest to say, Wena, you can't work from home. You can have flexibility. You can do this and blah, blah, blah. And I think the challenge is to have that diversity of leadership, to know that this can happen even if I'm sitting really on the other side of the continent, or this can't happen, etc. So the most important leadership quality is to be able to draw out the best in each team member and yourself, to work to your strengths. And I think for as long as we continue to be able to work to our strengths, it's incredibly exciting. And notwithstanding that, some people are too junior to have strengths at that time, and you need to train for that. The great thing about being in public practice is that you are in a learning environment. You have access to everyone and anyone within the practice. You can ask, you can learn, you can be curious. You know, you've got such a wide base of knowledge that you can just tap into because you're there. And I think if we're not intentional, how do I want to use that? You know, when you're doing articles, you speak to CEOs, CFOs, MDs. You have access to your clients. You can ask them any question. And so if we don't have the intentionality to know that I'm going to use this for that, we will miss it.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Q. Challenges. I mentioned earlier the imposter syndrome. I'll give you, you know, how that affected me. You know, the legal fraternity is still widely dominated. We're very far away from transforming the legal fraternity. Now, you're this little black male, fresh out of varsity. You've just been thrown into the deep end. And the deep end is lily white, different culture altogether. There are various opinions about your abilities that go around, floating around. And it's usually, and I've noted that these type of challenges are not even coming from the higher echelons, but it's usually at ground level amongst your peers, because they deem it as competition, you know, so you must get rid of this one so that there's an opportunity for you tomorrow. I struggled a great deal with that. There was a point in time, I've always wanted to be a legal practitioner, ever since I was a little kid. And I like to think of myself as a confident young chap. But for the very first time in my life, when I was doing my articles, my confidence was challenged. There were times where I thought to myself that maybe this thing is not for you. Maybe they were right. Abstract theories are not for those with melanin. You know, maybe they are for the others. So I faced a lot of that. And you know, when you're doing your articles, you make mistakes every day. So beyond your articles even, you know, any person, whether you're a student or in whatever business, we are constantly making mistakes. But when you get to a point where you think that, no, your mistake is not a mistake, it's a disability, then you know that this is a real challenge. Where someone else makes the same mistake, but when you sit and you think about your mistake and you think about how other people are talking about it, but you overcome that. So thankfully, you know, I overcame that, because everybody goes through that. Then there is failure. We barely ever talk of failure. There is a lot of failure. And I think my first failure that really hit home was when I was, we have to write 4 board examinations before you get admitted as a legal practitioner. I failed 2 of my board examinations. The one was accounting and bookkeeping, which I didn't really have an issue with because I'm not a numbers person, unless if the numbers are coming into the bank account. And then the second was ethics, which, you know, is a problem. I was like, hey, he was speaking about ethics earlier and he failed ethics. There is a paper that we have to write. It's a lot of commercial drafting, but it's widely known as ethics. I got 30% for these 2 papers. And it's very hard, you know, board examinations are very, very difficult. I got 30%. I sent them back to be remarked, so you have to pay for that. So I sent them back to be remarked. They went back to be remarked, and I had to pay my money for them to be remarked. The marks came back. Guess what they were? 30%, right? So they were still 30%. And people never talk about fail. So when we sit here and then, nah, it's been a smooth sailing. No, you fail. And it stresses you a lot because you're not guaranteed that when you rewrite it at the next opportunity that you're going to pass it. It's going to cause delays in your career. But I had to get myself up, deal with that failure, go back and rewrite those papers, and I did exceedingly well the second time when I went and wrote them. But that prepared me for something that I had never experienced before, because I had never failed. You know, when I was in varsity, I had never ever failed. This is the first time where I'm failing theory. But it was a great, it happened at the right time, and it taught me a lesson. There's nothing wrong with failing. There's nothing wrong with not getting it right the first time around. Our destinies are different. You know, some are going to enter into the workforce next year, some the work thereafter. That's your journey. I have my own journey, but don't let failures set you back. Because since then, I've experienced numerous other failures. In practice, we have targets. Sometimes you don't meet your targets. But now you know that, you know, it's fine. I didn't meet my target. Go back, do your homework. Why didn't you meet your targets? You know, revise, do your corrections, come back stronger. That's what happens. So learn to deal with that. There's going to be days when you're just mentally down. You're mentally exhausted. You're dealing with people's issues as if you don't have your own problems. You also have your own problems. You're busy auditing other people's, audit your own life as well. You know, nobody comes to come and say, let's do an audit. Where must we supplement? Where do you need help with? Those things can be very, very draining. You face that in practice. It becomes part of the life. That's what we've signed up for. It's going to happen. There's going to be days that are up. There's going to be days that are down. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. I think the second question, Ubongi sufficiently touched on it, so I'm not going to add anything further to that. Thank you.
Thank you so, so much. We have taken that one hand, and I know that we're also over time. And I just want to say thank you to my panelists. I have learned so much because, I mean, we work with your kind in our organization as well, but now I've been able to understand their back end just so that I'm able to interact with them a little better. So I really appreciate that. There's 4 C's that I have taken away from this conversation. If you'd like me to share those, one of them is that the first thing is curiosity. When you sat here, Ashley, and you were talking about being a lawyer who always questions things, I've always found that with innovation and legal fraternity, there's always 2 opposite sides of the coin. But that level of curiosity that you actually bring into such a regulated space was quite an interesting element to bring into the conversation. That level of curiosity, I think for me, is what I really took away. So the next one is a consistency. When you have a plan, you stick to it and you follow it through until it actually brings you to what you need to do. But other people are also watching to see how consistent you are in the manner that you're showing up, that then makes them notice you and also mention your name in various audiences. The next part is courage. You're brave. I actually realized, this is the reason why I never made partner. Or perhaps never will make partner. You're brave, you take the risk, you're willing to actually say, how high should I actually go? And I will actually jump over that cliff because I know that I'll be carried and I'll be able to fly. And that's something that I think not many of us possess, but you have actually brought us back to it, to say, what if? And I think I'm very encouraged by that. The last one is caring. You have heart. You know, there's so many things that you go through, but you're not thinking about yourselves only. You're thinking about the next person. You're thinking about the company. You're thinking about everybody else, stakeholders who need to interact with the work that you do. But you care enough to also show exactly how you can sustain the work that you actually do, which has been quite encouraging for me. So that brings us to the end of our conversation. It's been enlightening. It's been, I'm so much wiser now. And I really appreciate that you've taken your time at no cost, pro bono, to come and present this to the young people. And I hope that they have also found inspiration from what you've shared and that they will also go and carve their paths. I'm not going to ask you the question about whether or not you still want to be partner, but I hope that you can keep on dreaming until you realize some of those things that you actually set out yourselves out to do. Thank you very much, and I'm going to hand over to our head of faculty. Over to you.
Good afternoon. Wow, 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 wow. Can we give them a hand? If I was a millionaire, I was going to organize part 2. But I'll try. But when I'm a partner, you're going to come back. It's going to be soon. Thank you so much for coming, students and the staff and people from outside. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to close with prayer now. But there's food there. We eat in this faculty. So there's food there. So make sure that you don't go out without filling your stomach. Thank you so much again, Ashley, Bongiwe, and Bridgette, and also for accompanying Bongiwe. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And sorry. I want to thank my team, BZEC, the leadership, the students, who are working tirelessly. We are in meetings almost every week. Hey, these guys, they organize meetings each and every week. So they worked very hard to organize this event. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.